Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Shawne Merriman, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Dude, I'm so excited about this. Like I told you before we hit record, I'm a huge fan, have been ever since I was a season ticket holder with the San Diego Chargers. So like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story and our passion is to help them tell it. And what we know is something from your life story people are going to connect with, and it's going to inspire and motivate them to go do things they've been putting off, like starting an Xtreme fighting league, right? That kind of thing, something, right? Kind of cool. So with your permission, let's start with where you were born.
Yeah, I was actually born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is like a little bit outside of Washington, D.C., born in 84. So I'll say this, Washington, D.C. and PG County in the late 80s and 90s wasn't the place you want to grow up, right? It wasn't. Really? Yeah, it was pretty tough. I mean, in fact, a neighborhood about less than a quarter mile from me was on the murder capital of the country for 5 years, the area. And so that's pretty much sums it up on, where we grew up at. And, you look back on it, man, and you try to put a finger on it. And at the time when you're going through it and you're seeing that type of stuff, the violence, the this and all the surroundings around you, it kind of molds you. And then you don't even know what's happening until you get older and you start looking back. And so I really, I put a lot of emphasis on, the times that I grew up at. We were homeless a couple of different times. We had lost our home, due to fires. So my mom actually couldn't afford to pay bills. We're 11 years old, and she lit a candle. Our light and gas was off in the house, and she lit a candle. The candle, accidentally burned through and burned our apartment down, and so our house, and so we were left homeless. Me, my mom, my sister, we slept in cars and shelters and everything else. And just that time, when you're going through it, you just try to figure it out and you don't understand it until you get out of it to look back.
Yeah. Hindsight being 2020, right?
Yeah.
So what was the number one thing you learned from that?
That, like dark times, bad times don't last. Neither does good. Right. So I just always remind myself that, hey, look, if the good times don't last, then the bad times don't either. And so you have to, I always had this mindset that you have to keep plowing forward no matter what, right? Because things will get better. Nothing ever stays great or good, right? And nothing ever stays bad. And so I just always keep that in my mind anytime anything goes wrong because of that upbringing. I really. And look, don't get me wrong, I'd rather not have dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody say, hey, I wanted to, be homeless. So I wanted to not know when our next meal was coming. I wanted to know when our eviction notice was going to be on the door. So nobody want that, but because you had to go through it, you start to appreciate things a lot different than most other people. And also you develop this layer of skin that most people don't have because of what you had to do in order to fight out of that situation and stay positive through that situation. And, once you go through those things, man, you look at everything a lot different.
It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is a strange question, but we ask everybody this. Do you have a favorite thing about where you grew up?
Yeah, it was, I think for us, it was a lot of culture, right?
Yeah.
It was a lot of culture because you had to be tough. You had to, figure things out. I was, forced to, because our living situation, I was forced to have to figure out things at an early age. I mean, my first job, I was, 11, 12 years old at working with my uncle as a landscaper. cutting grass and raking leaves and, even to the point of washing cars and stuff like that. So you start to value, right, money. You start to value hard work, and you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves. And so that part is, in a sense, you learn it pretty early. So you learn work ethic and what's most important to get you there.
Yeah. And it's, to an extent, it's almost something you're grateful for, right? Because now you look back on it and you're like, okay, everything I'm doing now is easier.
Yeah, not honestly, I used to think about that a lot, because when you're going through it, you say, "Why me?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to come home and my lights are off? Why does it have to be cold at home, or eviction notice on the doors and there's no food in there? Why me? And you start to go through and she say, "Man, you're really thankful for figuring that out and getting through that part, because somebody's bad day now maybe because their car don't start,
Yeah.
right? Or just something very minute, something very small. It's like, oh my God, my day." You're like, so you're bothered by a lot less, and you learn
Right.
how to figure things out a lot quicker and more efficient, and you stay positive through it no matter what, because you've already seen
Yeah.
the worst. You've
You've
seen
been
it.
tested, right? Yeah.
You've been tested, so you almost, in a sense, become very thankful, because it was preparing you for something that you didn't even know you were being prepared for. You had
Yeah,
no idea.
exactly.
You were going through it, and it's like, man, it was preparing you something for later on, great things that happen in life. So that part, I'm truthfully thankful for.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So I think I know the answer to this question, but we ask everybody, who was the most influential person to you growing up?
My coaches,
Yeah.
my coaches. My dad wasn't around. I didn't really have a relationship with my dad from the age of 10 or 11 to 25 or 26.
Wow. I'm sorry.
And, so my coaches kind of stepped in and provided that feel, that need there. And the fact, when we lost our home, when my coach actually took me in,
Yeah.
I lived in his house. And so that was the first time actually I've seen what it was like to be a
Yeah.
normal kid, right? Come home, you got lights there, you have food there, I had played video games when I wanted to, and I was like, man, this is cool. Like,
Yeah. This is the way to live, right?
this is normal. I didn't know
Yeah.
what normal was. So yeah, man, I really thank my coaches for allowing me to take me in, for one, but also being that figure that I needed at that time.
Yeah.
And since I was living with my coaches, I did what they did, right? So they
Yeah.
showed up at 5 a.m. to work out before school started, right? Because they had to get ready. And then when everybody left after practice, they were watching film. I was staying back watching film next couple hours after everybody was gone. So I became that, and it really helped out in a lot of different areas for me.
Yeah. It taught you a lot about work ethic, it sounds like.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that I learned. And I just learned how to work. I learned how to grind. I learned how to figure things out. And that, in a way, it translated into a lot of what I'm doing now, because there's obstacles, there's adversity, there's things you got to figure out constantly, and you just do it on the run. You don't sit back and get too discouraged. You do something, you figure it out, and then you go.
Yeah.
And a lot of that happened and figured out when I was very young.
That's cool. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Yeah, football.
That was mine too, but
Yeah, football, and then the second one was gym. The
Yeah.
second one was gym. But no, I was always into I wasn't really a numbers guy, but I was quickly able to, what I was really good at doing is working with a lot of people that were smarter than I was,
Yeah.
but I was able to get things done, right?
Yeah.
Like problem solving. Like I've always been a problem solver since I was a kid. If
Yeah.
people got problems, I said, you got a question, I got an answer, right? You got a
Right.
problem, I got a solution. And my mind always worked in that way. And so, we have group projects, for example. Like, everybody would sit there and do a lot of the work and say, all right, Shawne, this is what we're doing, present it.
Right.
For us. Like, you go out and present everything. And so
So they put you on stage.
yeah, I was always on stage. I was always the one that was, got in front of a crowd of people, classroom, group of school, and, whatever it was, I was always in the forefront. So I think a lot of that also helped too.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So I'm sure you had your pick of colleges. Why did you pick Maryland?
Honestly, we just talked about my upbringing and what I've
Yeah.
kind of went through, and how important my high school coaches and people that were in that Prince George's County, Washington D.C. area.
Right.
And I wanted to stay home and play in front of them.
I got you.
And to be one of the first one from my high school to ever go to a Division I college.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to see me on TV at Penn State or see me on TV playing for Florida State. I wanted to be a home representative to say, if everybody was watching me growing up and watching what I've been through, because, a lot of my story was well documented since I was in high school. I mean, it was out there of how I was living and what I was going through and those type of things. I remember the Washington Post and the Baltimore Sun, and they all wrote articles on everything that happened when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would I go somewhere else and so people can watch me on TV?
Yeah.
So at another school, I wanted people to watch me 25 minutes away, to be able to come up to the Maryland game and also watch me in person. And that to me meant more than anything.
I'll bet you it meant more to them than you know.
What you just said, I didn't know until I looked back on it, and I didn't know that how many people came to the game. I didn't know that my school principal, my teacher, that I really didn't keep a close relationship with, they were at all my college games, and my college games. I had no idea until I started to go back. I do this charity coat drive at the University of Maryland. I just finished up my 21st annual, actually.
Wow. Good
at
job,
the University of Maryland, because when we were homeless, we didn't have anything. We didn't have a coat. And so I said, look, when I got to a point to get on the platform, that I was going to do just that. I was going to create this coat drive. It's been going 21 years, over 30,000 coats. So I didn't even know that all my principal in my high school, the gym teachers, my physics teacher, my economics teacher, my math, they were all at all of my college games. And I had no idea until I went back. And they were bringing coats to my coat drive, and they said, "Shawne, we've never missed one of your college games." I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?" They all came, and so that is when I found out that it meant a lot to other people as well that I stayed home.
So there's your lesson, right? You, through your actions and through your values, you're leading people, right? You're inspiring and motivating people. Dude, I guarantee you're inspiring and motivating people today, right now on this podcast. I guarantee you are. We're in 28 countries now.
Awesome.
28 countries. Kind of
That's
cool.
insane.
We added 3 last week.
Insane.
Crazy. So the growth of this thing has just been amazing. And I cannot thank you enough for being here. So let's talk about what it's like to be drafted.
So we talked about, I was the first Division I player to come out of my high school that went to a Division I college.
Yeah.
And then I was the highest coming out of college. I was the highest drafted player out of the University of Maryland ever at the time. That Vernon Davis followed.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
And so you kind of set the stage, right? To be that one. I think that you need that one. You need that person to say, you know what, if he did it, it's possible.
That's exactly why we're doing this. That's exactly why we're doing this.
You need, if anybody in this world do anything, one thing, and I see it, and I see it's possible. In my head, my mindset is, if they can do it, I can do it.
That's it.
I just needed to know it's possible. And so to be the first Division I player coming out of my high school, to be the highest draft pick coming out of the University of Maryland. I mean, University of Maryland had some stars, right? Over the decades of football before, from Randy White all the way on to, some of the great players that came before me. And so for me to be the highest drafted player at the time meant a whole lot. And so I was slated to go anywhere from the first pick to the 15th pick. No one knew. Right. I was invited to the NFL draft, which is in New York, I believe it was. And I declined to go because, I just remember all these guys who were supposed to go somewhere in the top 10, top 15, and end up sliding to the end of the first round.
Right.
So the last thing I wanted to do was to have a camera sit there in my face.
Right.
Live on ESPN of like, oh, Shawne Merriman's still on the draft board.
Yeah.
They picked that. I'm like, no.
Welcome to the fishbowl.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I didn't want to do that. So I ended up staying home. I rented a big house back in Maryland. And my family, my friends, my high school coaches, and everybody that came to the house, I had about 50 or so people there. The news were there. They were recording. I think it was Comcast or something that was there. That was getting video, doing the draft. And It was special because you realize that even though that was where you almost wanted to, that's where you wanted to end up. It was almost like the beginning of a new start of something else, right? Like you reached your goal, now it begins.
Yeah.
And you grow up, and I remember doing like primetime Deion Sanders dance in my backyard or playing backyard football when I'm about to score. You just imitate all these players, and now you're playing in the same league that they are.
Yeah.
And so that to me, man, it really does. It meant a lot.
Well, I remember when you came to the Chargers, and it was one of the coolest times ever. Like I said, I was a season ticket holder and huge Charger fan and all that, and I could not have been more pumped to have you there. There was no way. So it's kind of amazing that we're talking, but I'm super appreciative of everything that you did for the Chargers, and I know that it wasn't easy. I know that you laid it all on the line in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough. So,
man, I appreciate that.
So you end up moving out of the NFL to an extent, right? I mean, you're not playing actively anymore. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to start this league? I know you're into extreme fighting. I know that's a big part of this, that you love doing it. But what was it that made you decide this is what I'm going to do?
So in 2005, 2006, I was on Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, right? The broadcaster there. I was a really good friend of mine. And I grew up kind of boxing. I had uncles and family of professional boxers, and boxing was big in my area where I grew up in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. A lot of big name professional boxers. So I was around that a lot.
Yeah.
So I was just hitting the mitts one day in Jay Glazer's gym, 2005, and he looked over. He said, "Man, I didn't know you can box." He said, I said, "Yeah." He said, "I think that MMA would help you out in football." Right. And so I started to train with Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, all these guys during the off season.
Wow.
And I literally just did it to help me with my hand-eye coordination, to be a better outside linebacker and pass rusher. Right. Obviously, what I did, your hands were very important.
Yeah.
Right. Being in hand combat was very important. So I actually got really good at it, and it became a passion of mine. So I did that every offseason my whole entire career.
Okay.
Fast forward, retired 2013. I got straight into TV, NFL Network a couple years. I went to Fox Sports a couple years, ESPN for a couple years, and back to Fox Sports.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I understood how TV worked, right? Because I created some shows. I understood how commercial breaks run and which camera did what and who did what, directors, producers, engineers, all of it. I understood the TV business. So it was a combination of me being around the sport of MMA, knowing that, right? Knowing the fighters, knowing, everything that happened behind the scenes. Now I understand TV and production because I was in it for 7.5, 8 years doing it before I ended up launching Lights Out Extreme Fighting, which is my MMA organization.
Right.
Currently, we are right now on Fubo Sports, Fubo TV live, and we air a week later on Bally's, Amazon Freevee, MSG Network, a few other places. We just had a big fight in Long Beach last Friday. That was just our best fight, our best card, highest ticket sales, probably our highest viewership, I'm guessing, on Fubo, because there was a lot of buzz around it.
Yeah.
But I think the business for me of live sports is the hottest, in my opinion, the hottest thing in the country right now, because you become important to a streaming partner. There's so much, there's betting now, right? You can bet on live sports and stuff like that. There's sponsorship, there's commercials, there's ads, there's live data. We just previewed these lights out tech gloves that had a chip in them that can measure speed, power, punch, impact. And we had them in all the fighters' gloves to collect fight data, and it worked. It absolutely worked.
I was going to ask you about that. Now, is that something you developed, or is that something somebody else developed and they brought it to you?
It was it's Shot Tracker's technology that's in. They work with the NBA, MLB, and PGA. So it's the same technology, but we have it on the combat sports side. So the first time they've ever tried it with combat sports.
So that same technology that you see them hit a drive and you see the colored flight of the. Okay, so that's Shot Tracker or Shot Tracer?
Shot Tracker.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.